at a time when I was in a tough place. He helped me. He sent me this stuff called Black Oxygen.
Black Oxygen Organics.
Black Oxygen.
Black Oxygen.
I have been a Black Oxygen Organics user for the last 2 months.
The name of it is Black Oxygen.
So I've had several tick bites.
I tested positive for COVID-19.
COVID.
I was actually hospitalized with COVID and pneumonia in both lungs.
I felt like a shell of myself.
Anxiety and depression, extreme fatigue, memory loss, and so forth.
I was not able to walk from the front of the house to the back of the house without having to sit down.
I was just exhausted.
Nothing was helping, guys.
And at the moment I take that, it's going to take care of a lot of problems that I have.
Hold on, but what is it? It's mud.
Mud? You drinking mud?
Yes, I put mud into a drink.
I take 3 tablets a day of the Fulvic Acid.
It was like someone flipped a switch.
Completely gone, no pain whatsoever. You should see how flexible I am now.
This right here is a lifesaver.
I had loads of energy.
My flexibility or my range of motion in my big right toe was about this much.
2 days later, all the bites were dried up.
My range of motion is like this in my big toe.
It just blasts me off. I've never felt anything like it. You're eating dirt? I'm eating dirt, yeah.
Within days, I have sustained energy.
I didn't have any more anxiety and depression.
I feel the best I felt in years.
I've never slept so good. I feel like I have the ability to handle the stress as a mom and all the things that go along with it.
I feel like a new man.
That gave me a diarrhea a little bit.
It's the most powerful electrolyte on the planet. Everybody's going to know this, and everybody's going to use this.
Welcome to perhaps the deepest deep dive I've ever done or researched. I worked on this video with the help of many wonderful people. I could not have done this alone, so thank you to everyone who contributed to the making of this video. You know who you are. Before we get into it though, make sure you like, comment, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. That kind of stuff helps the algorithm a lot, and I appreciate every single one of you who actively do that every time I post a video, because you have no idea how helpful that is. As with every deep dive I like to do, I'd like to start off with Black Oxygen Organics. Pop-Tarts here, everybody. I don't even have a camera going and she knows. Anyway, I'd like to start off with Black Oxygen Organics, or BOO. That's what I'll be calling it throughout this video. And I just want to go over what they are at face value. What information do they give on their website? What's it all about? First of all, Black Oxygen Organics is a multi-level marketing company, or MLM. You may also hear it be referred to as a network marketing, social selling, or direct sales company. You may have seen people on social media trying to sell you a crazy weight loss wrap, or a miracle essential oil, or a natural-based beauty regimen, among so many other things. If you're new to my channel, I have hours and hours and hours of content reviewing the dangers of this business structure, so I encourage you to take a look around. But just as a simple explanation, for those who don't know, MLMs generally operate as legal pyramid schemes made possible by creating loopholes using products they sell. However, the bulk of the money made in these companies comes from recruiting people beneath you. Because of this, according to a few different studies, a majority of people in MLMs will not make any money, or they'll actually lose money. Again, this is a very simple blanket explanation, and it all goes so much deeper than this, but that's really the simplest way I know how to describe it, so that's what we're dealing with here. And if you want more information on MLMs, you found the right channel. Meet Marc Saint-Onge, BOO's founder and CEO, also known as the Mudman. He claims 30 years ago that he was an orthotherapist, and while this title sounds like an impressive one to have at first glance, I discovered pretty quickly that an orthotherapist is basically just a fancy massage therapist. Marc describes it as therapy for reducing inflammation in muscles and other skeletal problems. Some sources also say that you need to have a background in kinesiotherapy, which is kind of just another form of physical therapy, and then you need to have a bachelor's degree from an accredited program. But in general, orthotherapists get lumped in together with other holistic medicine providers like chiropractors, acupuncturists, aromatherapists, etc. So that's the background Marc has. It's really not as impressive as it sounds. In this video, he recounts his experience working as an orthotherapist in Germany and how he was witness to miraculous recovery of patients who bathed in the fulvic-rich mud. Just a disclaimer, this is a pretty serious medical claim and no one should take it as fact. This kind of claim is dangerous.
They were using this black mud called Moor, and when I went into the spa and I saw the stainless steel tub, you actually turn on the tap and this black mud would fall into the tub, heated at 120 degrees Fahrenheit, and these people would lay in it. But I saw people in wheelchairs and crutches and walking out 2-3 hours after being in this mud. So I said, I need this stuff here in Canada. And that's how it started.
During his practice, he discovered a love for humic and fulvic acid, specifically fulvic acid, which is a naturally occurring substance found in soils, compost, marine sediments, and sewage. So it's a product of organic decomposition. Simply put, it comes from decaying plants and animals, and like poop and stuff. Sounds appealing. You can buy fulvic acid supplements in plenty of health stores, and people have been using it medicinally for centuries. Fulvic acid has been studied for its effects on immune health and inflammation, and there's actually some scientific evidence to back this up, although the studies I looked at seem to be test tube and animal studies. I didn't really see any actual studies done on humans to confirm or deny its inflammatory properties or immune support, although there's a little bit of human research done to support a possibility that fulvic acid may lower cholesterol, improve brain function, boost testosterone, and more. The studies do seem promising, although it's very important to note that it requires much more research to be able to determine what dosages are safe and the actual effectiveness, so you won't really find many actual doctors recommending this stuff because of how limited human studies are. So where does one get this stuff? Well, basically mud. Specifically in Boo's case, peatland, or bogs, which are basically wetlands. Me, being a desert dweller in Phoenix, Arizona, I had no freaking idea what a bog was until I started looking into this. But with Boo specifically, the bog in question is conveniently located near Marc's home. And Marc says that fulvic acid became his life passion. He grew up in Canada, where around 13% of the country's surface is made up of peatland. Is it peatland or peatland? I don't know. He set out to research over 60 bogs. I think he specifically says 63, which I can't really tell how to classify bogs, so if 13% of Canada is made up of them, 60 bogs doesn't sound like a lot. Marc found the Moose Creek bog near the village of Casselman in eastern Ontario, and when he tested the mud there, they found that it contained 36% humic acid. He says that this is one of the highest concentrations in the world, as proven by the International Peat Society back in 1996. Again, in Marc's words. I wasn't really sure how to find this exact document that he's talking about, so I guess we just have to take his word for it because he doesn't cite it anywhere. In this video, when he brings up the 36% humic acid statistic, there's an on-screen title that says humic/fulvic acid. According to my research, they're two different things. They generally go hand in hand in contributing to plant growth, but they have different molecular structures, sizes, and functions. So is that 36% a mixture of the two compounds? Because he verbally said humic acid. I have no idea. So basically, he says he found the most concentrated humic and fulvic acid mud ever after only studying 60 bogs, even though 3% of all the land on Earth is covered by peat bogs. I don't know, man. Seems like a pretty big claim to make considering the expansive square mileage of bogs on our planet, but okay. Yeah, you just happen to find the most concentrated fulvic acid, humic acid bog after only studying 60 bogs. Like, wow, you got really lucky, dude. What makes Boo special, according to Marc, is their bog. He brags about it being organic, which I'm pretty sure there's plenty of peatland in the world that's organic too, Marc. Anyway, he says when he found this bog, he was still practicing orthotherapy, and he would put this mud in a Ziploc bag to give to his patients, presumably without testing it for, you know, bacteria and parasites. Sounds totally safe. He claims patients would keep coming back over and over begging for just one more Ziploc, and it came to a point where he had 500 Ziploc bags full of mud in his garage. And when I say mud, I mean Marc says that there were still branches and leaves in it. He wasn't even trying to find a way to filter all that out first. He was just scooping up mud from the bog and being like, here you go. Over the years, Marc perfected filtering the mud to a nice consistency and then created a patent to be able to bring mud baths to market, operating under the business he called Golden Moor. He says he had created over 89 different products and sold the company after 25 years of operating in the spa industry, while still holding on to the dream of making a drink out of the stuff. A delicious, muddy sludge, what dreams are made of. When he was operating Golden Moor, he was extracting the same mud from the same bog he does for Boo. Here he kind of explains how they harvest the mud they use.
Well, it's very simple. We have to find an area where we can actually go with a tractor or a heavy equipment and use an auger. It's like a drill, and we go down to the marsh, to the clay, and then we raise that auger about 5 feet, and then we take that mud from the bottom of the marsh, which has most of decomposed matter, renders it into nutrients, trace minerals, and humic acid.
And back then he sold it in more of a liquid form, and then you were supposed to bathe in it. But he also mentions that you could totally just straight up eat this mud if you wanted to.
But if you are stranded in the woods, find a marsh, find a bog, and eat it, because you'll survive.
I don't know if I trust you. You're just trying to get me to eat mud.
So next, Marc created new water, which would later be renamed to black Black Oxygen Organics. New Water started out as a product where he claims they extracted the fulvic acid from the mud and threw it in a drink. Yummy! Other products include the extracted humic/fulvic acid in tablet and powder form, in which they recommend drinking or using it as a foot bath, a detox bath, a face mask, shampoo, toothpaste, mouthwash, or making it into a paste to treat specific areas of the body. Boo's website calls fulvic acid the miracle molecule, and the reason you've never heard of it is because science hasn't found a way to replicate it yet. Sure, pal, I'm certain that's why. You'll find many customer reviews on their website, most containing dangerous health claims and testimonials. But before we even touch that, let's talk about what we know about the Moose Creek bog. Now, recently, he and his supporters have been denying that this is the bog he uses, as if we don't have videos of him literally saying that this is the bog he uses.
We extract here in Casselman area, close to Moose Creek, the Casselman bog in Moose Creek, Ontario. The best one in Moose Creek, out in Casselman area, Moose Creek area.
There seems to be a narrative now that Boo skeptics are out there loud and proud that Boo is actually being harvested from the Alfred Bog, which is a bog about 25 miles away from the Moose Creek bog. According to the NCC, or Nature Conservancy Canada, this is protected wetland. It contains rare species of wildlife such as the white-fringed orchid, Atlantic sedge, the bog elfin butterfly, Fletcher's dragonfly, spotted turtle, and rhodora, as well as a healthy and thriving moose population. The NCC claims that 90% of the bog falls under protection, but is it possible that this other 10% is where Boo is being extracted from? Is it also possible that they're illegally extracting the mud from there? We don't really know for sure. Regardless, the NCC seems to hold on to the fact that bogs are being depleted, and it's literally destroying the natural habitat of so much wildlife. No matter where this mud is coming from, they're contributing to the depletion of bogs and destruction of natural environments that are so important to our planet. It's not sustainable and it's extremely damaging. I found remnants of one Facebook post where someone said that Mark sent out an email that said they started using the Alfred Bog, but that post has been deleted and I couldn't read it. Meanwhile, we have a video of Mark specifically saying Moose Creek in reference to the bog about a year ago. So I just want to put this out there. It's entirely possible that they did start getting their mud from the Alfred Bog, but I have loads of evidence to say it's coming from the Moose Creek Bog, and basically none other than the Huns screaming on Instagram to say otherwise. So for the sake of the information we have to go off of, we're gonna just continue to research in this video as if it's all still coming from the Moose Creek Bog. At the very least, we know Mark's previous companies extracted from the Moose Creek Bog for literally decades, and that was certainly going on up to a year ago, if not even more recently than that. Down a beaten path in Ottawa, Canada, lies the location to the magic mud. And what's that? Practically catty corner to the bog? We have two businesses, LaFletch Environmental and GFL Moose Creek. That plot of land right behind them, yeah, that would be a landfill. Both of these businesses dabble in the waste management industry, and according to my sources, all of this land, including the bog, is all owned by one waste management company. Mark just has rights to excavate there. I would say that that should bother you, but don't forget this product is made from decomposing plants and animals in the first place. So, I mean, it's not like it's clean and now it's just being contaminated by trash or whatever. It's gross no matter what. There are some things we should be concerned about here, though. There was a study done to test the preservation and concentration of parasitic remains in peat sediments, and you can find it linked down below, but just to preface, the study in particular was sent to my research group from a biologist and said that even though this particular study looked at Crete over the past 2,000 years, it still applies to the Moose Creek Bog and basically any other bog, but the Moose Creek Bog is obviously in Canada, not Crete, and has been in the making for 60,000 years. This is all still relevant though. So this study looked at 22 different samples between multiple time periods and found that 86.4% of the samples tested positive for the presence of microscopic helminth eggs. Simply put, these eggs are an agent for a worm disease called helminthiasis. Helminthiasis? Sure, we'll go with it. You can find these eggs in wastewater, sludge, and excreta. You know, poo-poo, pee-pee. You can also get this through the consumption of polluted meat or fish. Now, when a human is infected with helminthiasis, worms will live in the gastrointestinal tract, but could also burrow into other organs, causing physiological damage. This all being said, there are plenty of microorganisms living in Canadian peatlands. It's hard to say what kind of purification or pasteurization this mud goes through, but given how much this guy believes in his magic mud, I'd guess that he's probably doing as little as as possible to, you know, preserve the organic nature of the mud, if you will. As you'll see later, some people are having serious side effects from ingesting this stuff. Could it be worms? The world may never know. From an environmental aspect, this kind of excavating and harvesting could be potentially harmful to the bog. Today, less than 2/5 of Ontario's original wetlands remain, with losses in some areas as high as 80%. There are actually organisms that are specific to bogs. For example, this little guy is called the bog copper. Their survival relies on the conservation of bogs and wetland habitats, and the destruction of these places would be detrimental to them as a species. They're already listed as a species of special concern in Connecticut. If you zoom in on the map, you'll notice weird-looking stripes. They're likely ditches, which are dug to actually drain water from the bog, which can act as an environmental threat to the bog and all organisms that reside there. Some bogs even require restoration efforts after it's been stripped of its resources. Marc insists that he could harvest tons of mud every day for 100 years and the bog would remain healthy. I'm not sure how much I believe that, though, given the satellite imagery. You can see a few drains labeled on each side of the bog. I don't know much about agriculture, so someone in the comments will probably be able to provide an explanation for all this, but all of this points to some kind of damage done to the ecosystem somehow, right? There's obviously a lot of dangerous and unethical stuff going on here, but Boo also has a background of allegedly firing their highest level distributors in the company over simple disagreements. According to one ex-rep, he wishes to remain anonymous, and of course I'd like to respect his wishes. He was the company's top earner who is passionate about holistic medicine, and he joined Boo because he believes in fulvic acid's alleged health benefits. He had been in network marketing for over 40 years, and he said that he was making more money with Boo than he ever had in an MLM before. He had regular meetings with the corporate team, and he felt heard and appreciated, until one day, out of the blue, the compensation plan had been changed to where they'd be making 10% less in commission, and they raised the prices of their already outrageously expensive products by 28%. They claimed they had to do this to survive, which is highly doubtful considering how inflated those prices are. Companies choose the MLM business structure because there's a ton of money to be made off of the backs of other people. They choose it because it's more profitable to them. They barely have to pay their frontline workers after all. This rep says later that they brought someone in from another network marketing company and signed her straight into the top level of the company without her having to work her way to a spot in the organization that she earned. When he voiced his concerns about how unethical this was, he was terminated from Boo after the company's president, Carlo Garibaldi, who cares? And he told him, I own this company and I'll do whatever I want. And if he didn't do it, he'd be letting $1 million walk out the door. This situation sounds a lot like what allegedly went down with the Butlers when they started Ariel, how they were making more money than Josh and Jenna were okay with in hemp work, so they just withheld their paychecks until they decided to leave, and then they started their own competitor business. I'm sure this happens more than we know, considering that MLMs are originally established based on greed in the first place, for a desire to make more money while compensating people less than they would in a traditional business. And shortly after this, he found out that Carlo straight up stole his entire organization after terminating him. I mean, it's all unethical and messed up for sure. And of course, Boo threatened him with legal action for speaking about it publicly. I stepped into an interview with Meg Priest. She is someone who is still in the MLM industry, so that alone holds a lot of interest on my end to get to talk to somebody who normally would be considered on the other side of things, you know, but she had some personal experiences with people who ended up at the top ranks of Boo, so I just want to throw some of that interview in here since we're in the middle of talking about some kind of sketchy business practices. To clarify what you're about to hear here, Meg used to be in an MLM called Be Epic, so that's what you're going to hear her talking about in this little section here first, and then she left because she didn't like what was going on behind the scenes, and then realized that a few months later all of the shady Be Epic distributors jumped ship into Boo. Meg never actually joined Boo. She just has personal knowledge of some of the top distributors for Boo because they worked in Be Epic with her.
I was with Be Epic. I left. There was unethical things that happened, truly, and honestly, I was disgusted. I was so manipulated to increase volume for their paycheck that I had blind spots that I should have seen. When I noticed that these top leaders who a month before had put out live videos and they're like, oh yeah, no, I'm here forever. This is my forever home. I love this company. And then the very next live was they had jumped over to the dirt company. They were going from one shit pile to another shit pile. And I knew then that something shady was going on. And the reason why is because I have some insight to some potential legal things that they may be or may not be going through right now. And I'm sure they need quick money. The CEO of Be Epic, he's being sued by Lavelle. There are other suits out there. The SEC froze his assets at one point because of cryptocurrency scams.
Go figure.
Once I realized that these people were over there, I knew that they were already unethical, that they knew about the things that were happening in the other company and kept their mouths shut for a paycheck. I knew that they were doing the exact same thing over here.
Yeah.
And then when all of the people started coming out in droves, having bad reactions, having all kinds of issues, right?
Oh God, yeah.
I knew that I had to say something.
And after all this, speaking of legal trouble anyway, Boo may be finding themselves in some legal troubles of their own. While I was researching, I was desperately trying to get to their shop page just to see what their product line actually was. And it's important to note that you will not be able to view their shop page without giving them your personal information. Like, it doesn't get much sketchier than that. You legit have to give them an email address and your full name just to be able to see this shit that they're selling and add stuff to your cart. But as I was trying to get into this, the website wouldn't load. I tried for like an hour and it kept crashing or coming up with error messages. And this could be related to some FDA trouble, which I'll talk about later. Boo reps all like to point to their COA or Certificate of Analysis as some kind of way to own the haters.
They have a certificate of analysis in their back office that they give to their representatives. It's not readily available on the website. That's not even it though. It's not third-party signed. There's parts cut off from the top of the letterhead. But then as we uncovered it further, we realized that there was a very large amount of potassium oxide.
Do you think that could be a byproduct of like the landfill right next door, or like?
At this point, right, we're all speculating and it's hypothetical because I can't make claims.
Right.
However, if you look at the materials that the waste facility that is in proximity to their supposed bog, you can look up what kind of chemicals and things they accept for their wastes. There's some pretty alarming things on there.
If they're gonna fake a certificate of analysis, then why would they put a man-made chemical on there?
They're either very, 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 very stupid, or they just thought that they weren't going to get caught. I don't know.
It turns out that them sharing this may be an example of them constantly owning themselves over and over again. Full disclosure, I'm not a scientist or a biologist or a chemist or any of that. The information I'm about to report is just how it was all explained to me. And this information was sourced as coming from Dr. Susan Clinton, which if you Google that name, there are a few different people who come up, so I can't be sure exactly who this person is or what their credibility is. But that being said, this makes sense to me as a layman, but I'm an idiot. So please feel free to leave your comments below if you have any more extended knowledge on this stuff. So the COA is from 2017, which is definitely from the Moose Creek bog days. That's the one that they were using for decades. That was next to a landfill. So this alone makes me confused as to why the Boo reps are all sharing this 4-year-old document while also saying that they don't even get their samples from there anymore in the first place. It makes no sense. The document displays a long list of different compounds found in the sample. First of all, this list is titled as minerals exclusively, but I mean, not everything listed here is exclusively a mineral. So that's odd for a lab to be doing. Not only that, but the source of information here says that a lab report wouldn't be abbreviating them either. But anyway, the sample lists 2 industrial contaminants, one making up over 17% of the sample tested. K2O is potassium oxide, and according to PubChem, contact may severely irritate skin, eyes, and mucous membranes, may be toxic by ingestion, inhalation, and skin absorption. You're not even supposed to store or transport it with products made for consumption. Meanwhile, these people are out here just chugging it. The other waste is P2O5, or phosphorus pentoxide, which appears in a very small amount, so it honestly probably is not dangerous, but it's evidence that the product sampled in this test was pulled from an environment that contains some sort of toxic waste. There are also traceable microbials, yeast, and mold. So it's just funny that Boo reps are sharing this as if it means anything, and as if 17% of their product totally isn't made up of a known toxin. Like, it's basically poison, allegedly. So what could go wrong with consuming toxic dirt? Well, let's look into what the reps are saying about how you can use these products and what kind of side effects we're seeing. Some of these posts may be disturbing to some viewers, so if you're squeamish, I'd skip through this part. First of all, when perusing this part of the Boo rabbit hole, you'll see a lot of talk of parasitic infection. You've probably heard a lot about parasitic infection because it's kind of a TikTok trend right now, and also the whole ivermectin thing. There are a lot of pictures that people post saying like, look, this worm came out of me. Just as an aside, parasitic infections are actually pretty rare in humans in first world countries, but these people claim everyone has one. And you can tell if you have any of these symptoms, including literally any diagnosed disease. So one of the things that Boo heads like to do with the powder is literally rehydrate it by putting it in their drinking water. In this example, we see someone doing that and surprise, surprise, worms found their way into her water bottle. Hey Karen, there are worms in dirt, not sure if you were aware. As far as medical claims and bad reactions, I can could make a 7-hour long video going through all of the shit I've seen, from detoxing an old tampon out of their body to bathing their children in the stuff, resulting in blisters, rashes, and general irritation, to mouth sores, to mucous membrane irritation, to cancer falling off. It's so unsafe what these people are doing.
There's so many things that boggle the mind. Same thing as a CEO on a Zoom call telling women they should douche with it. I mean, I can't even make this up.
I mean, I definitely saw a lot of screenshots of people saying that they should do that. So I didn't know that came straight from the CEO. These are the people that we are dealing with. It's actually scary. I've seen a lot of questionable things coming out of people's bodies, and they're all so quick to take pictures of it. A lot of these parasites seem to be like blood clots that come out of people's nose, like bloody boogers, you know, and they're like, it's a worm. Sometimes it's like skin or even shed intestinal lining. What seems to be the most popular phenomenon is people doing a foot soak with boo, and then they report having tingling, pins and needles, and other pains. And then when they take their feet out of the water, there's stuff in the water that they claim to be parasites. Some of them are clear and globby, like mucusy, snotty looking nasties. Others are dark and stringy, but none of them I've seen are like clearly actual bugs or worms. And from this rises the question, if these large parasites are supposedly coming out of their feet, why aren't there like giant gaping holes in their feet? Well, one of Boo's top income earners has a theory.
That's the thing, like you talk about with the brainwashing, they have an excuse for everything, right? There's people who are questioning how such large parasites can come out of pores that are so small. And the top one, this guy named Adam had a really interesting video about how they quantum tunneled there and teleported out of their feet.
What the fuck? Quantum tunneling. Yeah, you heard that right. This guy's trying to convince people that the worms are literally teleporting out of people's feet. The thing is, quantum tunneling is a real thing in quantum mechanics, but it literally does not apply to this situation. It applies to the wave function of particles, not like entire objects. I found someone who did a pretty good explain like I'm 5 of it on Reddit, and here's the analogy they used. For an analogy to make this a little easier to understand, think of a vibrating string, which is fixed at both ends, like a guitar string. The fixed points at the end are trying to dampen the vibration, but they can't do it fully. Some of the string's vibrations sneak into the guitar. Even though the guitar is much heavier than the string can still cause the guitar to vibrate a little bit. It's impossible to have the guitar not vibrate at all. It would need to be infinitely heavy. So from what I understand, a particle could travel outside of a barrier, but that particle could be found literally anywhere else outside of that barrier. So like if his theory were true, and by the way, it's super not, the worms could literally be able to teleport all the way back to the bog if they wanted to. They could teleport anywhere they wanted. But somehow, so conveniently, they all teleport right into the footbath. And people are believing it. They're so desperate for any explanation that they're choosing to believe in parasitic teleportation. And don't think that Boo is just gonna admit to any of this. They've got a huge policies and procedures document. One bold-faced section states that the following disclaimer must be used every time a testimonial is posted. Individual results can and will vary. My testimonial is not necessarily representative of all those who use company products. All participants giving testimonials utilized a complete health regimen that incorporates company's products, food supplements, physical activity, and or a reasonable diet. And guess what? I don't believe I've seen a single rep use this once. The only place I've seen this disclaimer used is in the policies and procedures, so clearly they're not taking any of that very seriously. The document also states that before and after pictures for any disease or condition not labeled on their packaging are not to be used for any purpose. Meanwhile, we have people being like, look, my cancer fell off, and no one in corporate bats an eye. But you know who does bat an eye? Allegedly the FDA. And this is what I was hinting towards earlier. But I don't see any legit sources of this, only that one of the top reps posted this.
Update. Product is still shipping right now, but 500,000 bags of powder and 200,000 sets of tablets have been held by the FDA for inspection. This means that orders right now in the US are still shipping. But as soon as inventory runs out, which could be days to 2 weeks, we don't know, we are going to have a delay in the supply chain. The FDA could release the product literally tomorrow or 3 days from now, or a week from now. But currently, it could be held up to 6 weeks. This is just because the product is helping so many people. We are having different places paying attention to us. What does this mean? It means the company is succeeding like crazy, so it's attracted attention. This will be a short-term thing, and corporate is going to continue to ship in more and more product, so even if they hold shipments in the future, we'll have 1 million bags of product in stock. Be sure to let everyone know that there may be an interruption in the supply chain, and order as much product as possible right now before it goes out of stock in the US.
First of all, good. If you look through the reviews on the company's Facebook page, you'll see a few people complaining of long shipping times, so it seems that there have been delayed shipping issues for a while. This time, though, it's different. And like I was saying earlier, I couldn't get into the shop page, so I'm sure that this is connected. Secondly, they're keeping it from us because it's so good? Oh god, come on. You people are eating dirt. You're surprised that the government agency that's in charge of evaluating product safety and efficacy is inspecting your glorified dirt that, by the way, is giving people sores at best and intestinal lining shedding at worst. But no, I'm sure it's because it's so good. Third, we attracted attention because the company is so successful. Well, a company that somehow convinced people to pay over $100 for a bag of dirt is bound to get some eyes on it. And it's sad. There's a lot of vulnerable people out there right now. I think we all know this. And Boo, alongside its distributors, have taken advantage of that vulnerability during the pandemic. Like straight up, there are people online in all of these Boo groups talking about using it to cure COVID. These people all fell into a mindset of can't trust big pharma, can't trust hospitals, unless you end up needing it to save your life, and then you take resources away from people with actual medical issues, of course. Can't trust medicine, guess I'll trust this dirt. I mean, people are forcing this on their sick children despite having serious side effects because they think it's a detox and they'll end up being healthier afterwards. You really have to be desperate to behave that way, and it's really very sad. And of course, like in every deep dive I do, I just like to briefly touch on the compensation plan. It seems like there's a $40 fee to sign up, and I think that might also be like an annual fee that gets charged, but their compensation plan also mentions enrollment packages, the cheapest being $110, where you get either the Boo tablets or the powder, which is the regular price a retail customer would pay for said products. So we're looking at a minimum investment of $150 to become a distributor with Boo, but you could end up investing much more if you decide to purchase more product, which of course you will because your upline will insist that you do. The compensation plan itself is very similar to just about any MLM, and also like every other MLM, they claim that theirs is the best in the biz. The first page also claims that you could potentially pay off debt, quit your 9 to 5, or just earn an additional $300 to $500 per month, which is an oddly specific number that they chose to put there. There's no income disclosure statement available that I could find, so we really don't know how much these people are actually making. Boo reps make a 25% commission on sales across the board, and then between 10 to 20% off of your lower leg volume of your downline, depending on your rank. There's also other team building bonuses you can get, but we don't have to talk about that because it's unlikely that you'd ever make your way up to these ranks where these are relevant anyway. Also, to maintain your rank, you need to maintain 80 PV per month, which presumably could be made through either your personal sales using your website link or your personal purchases. Income from commissions is capped at $150,000 per month, which to me, I'm like, how can you claim that your compensation plan is the most lucrative in the industry when you have people in HempWorks potentially earning $1 million a month? Like, it's stupid. This is all assuming that the FDA doesn't force them to cease operations right now. Having looked at the compensation plan, I'd say that it's much more likely that we'd see Boo get taken down for their reps' bogus health claims and false advertisement and all that stuff than seeing them taken down for being an actual pyramid scheme. It's obviously like very MLM-y, but we've seen way nastier compensation plans, honestly. And there is so much more that I could talk about, but we would be here for literally 1,000 years, so I will stay on top of the Boo stuff and I'll keep you guys updated as I see fit. But now it's time to thank my patrons and my members. These are my financial supporters that I am so very grateful for. They get access to our private Discord server. We have a postcard club. Sometimes I give you guys early access to videos. Sometimes I give you guys merch deals, like just all that kind of fun stuff. So if any of that sounds good to you, you can either go to patreon.com/SavannahMarie, or you can click the join button beneath this video to join my YouTube membership program. It's all the same, just whatever platform you decide that you'd rather join. And with that, the biggest thank you in the whole wide world goes to Elizabeth Wyatt, Eve Blondo, Nitty Dragon, Leanne, Maggie Haseman, Meredith Nakata, Molly Wasilewski, Quinlan E., Ryamu, Sandra Mickelbus, Turd Ferguson, Alice W., April Lindblom, Boris Geller, Katrina Rosemarick, Claire T., Daniel Urena, E. Higgins, Erica Louder-Craddock, Jerry Duncan, Heather Stilson, Heidi Ha, Julia Wheeler, Kelly Creffield, Kim Cartwright, Lizzie McQueen, Maddie Darley, Rachel McHenry, Samantha Jackson, Stephanie Hell, Tuesday the 13th, Lizzie Lyon, Tiffany Brust, Auntie Lou, Vamp Faye, Fallon Lowry, Sabrina Franklin, and Julia Nieberdowski. And to the rest of my fabulous financial supporters, you guys are the bestest ever. Thank you so much for being here and for being you, and to putting up with me making this video, because I know I had to take some time off to get this all done. It's been a wild ride. Don't forget to leave your likes and your comments, and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Follow me on all social media, and I'll see you around, guys. Smell you later. Mommy Tsunami, out.